First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Proverbs, the 12th chapter. Whoso loveth instruction loveth knowledge, but he that hateth reproof is brutish. And let's look into that word instruction. Mawasar. It says discipline, correction, chastening. So if you love instruction or discipline, you love knowledge because you learn through discipline. Okay, and you're able to be taught. You're able to accept reproof. You're able to accept correction, and that allows you to grow. Okay, so that's why it says, whoso loveth instruction loveth knowledge, but he that hateth reproof is brutish. And let's take a look at that word brutish. Ba'ir, which is brutish, stupidity, brutish, because a person that is not like reproof can never be corrected. And if they're doing something wrong and they can't accept correction, then how are they going to improve or become wiser, right? Or how are they going to do better? They're not. So if you can't accept feedback and if you can't be corrected, then you're never going to grow. Remember, this is the contrast of the upright and the wicked. A good man obtaineth favor of the Lord, but a man of wicked devices will he condemn. And why would a good man obtain favor of the Lord? Because he is doing the will of the Lord. Else he wouldn't be described as a good man. But a man of wicked devices, when you go into that word devices, is dealing with, it's not like gadgets. Okay, when you think of a device today, you think of like a gadget. It's not talking about gadgets, right? It's purpose, plot, intention, okay, or plans. So the Lord, shows favor to those that are good, but those that devise wicked plans, the Lord condemns. A man shall not be established by wickedness, but the root of the righteous shall not be moved. So those that put forth wickedness will not be established. I believe it's Wisdom of Solomon, the 3rd chapter, that goes into that, about the root of the wicked or the ungodly. They're like a tree that's going to be uprooted. So they're not going to be established. Now today, you have the wicked, which is Esau, Edom, right? And primarily focus on their elites, because they're the ones who are pushing that wickedness unto the earth. Not just them, but primarily them. It says here, man shall not be established by wickedness. So even though they may have temporary reign, it's not going to be permanent, because they won't be established. Because who is it that establishes one or uproots one? The Lord. And he's not going to establish one that is wicked, but the root of the righteous shall not be moved. And your roots are like your foundation, right? You're sure. The righteous have a sure foundation, so they will not be moved. They won't be, they won't fall. They won't come to ruin. They're going to be stable, sure, and established. A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband. And what does a crown do? A crown, is likened onto, like, it's a glorious thing, right? The one that wears a crown is glorified, being a king. But here it likens a virtuous woman to being like a crown or one of great value to her husband. But she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness in his bones. And that's a non-virtuous woman. Let's see here, because she'll give you a bad name, right? She'll give you a headache. She'll just be stressful to deal with. Yeah, this is Ecclesiasticus 25, and I'll start up a bit and we'll go down to 18. With Ecclesiasticus or Sirach chapter 25 verse 17, The wickedness of a woman changeth her face, and darkeneth her countenance like sackcloth. Because sometimes the sackcloth, let's actually look that up here. See, see if we get an image. Sometimes it was made of goat's hair, which was black. Okay, you usually see this right here, right? This brown, but some of it was coarse, and it was made of goat's hair, which would be dark, you know, and so when it talks about the darkening of the countenance, let's see, all right, I think that's it. Goat's hair. I don't know if they'll actually have an image of it, but we'll see. It doesn't look like they do. All right, that's okay. It's all right. Ain't the end of the world. Okay. So back in Ecclesiasticus, right, it says here, her husband shall sit among his neighbors, and when he heareth it, shall sigh bitterly. See, concerning the report about her, about the wicked woman. So likewise it says here, she that maketh ashamed, it says rottenness in his bones. It's like and that's a painful thing to deal with. Okay, let's look up here. What is bone rotting called medically? Bone rotting is medically referred to as osteonecrosis or a vascular necrosis. It is a serious condition where bone tissue dies due to lack of blood supply, causing the bone to break down. Joint pain becomes severe, limited range of motion and stiffness, often developing in the hip or groin area. So you can see it's it's not a it's a painful condition to have to deal with, and that's what a shameless woman is likened onto. The thoughts of the righteous are right, but the counsels of the wicked are deceit. And that's pretty self-explanatory, right? But what comes out of their counsels is deceit, right? And how to, because it's all about gain, right? And the wicked make gain through deceit, right? They build their their empire on deceit. The words of the wicked the words of the wicked are to lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the upright shall deliver them. See, so their words, which go also into their intentions, are to lie in wait, lie in the cut for blood, which is murder. Okay, and it's here murder is not used as like exclusively, but it's to exemplify the extent of the wickedness that comes forth out of their minds or out of their mouth. Okay, it says here, but the the mouth of the upright shall deliver them. The upright shall be justified by their mouth, or in this case their intentions or their deeds. Because you speak what you speak shows what manner of man you are. Okay, so it's not exclusive to just the things that they say, but what they say justifies them because it shows forth what nature of person they are. The wicked are overthrown and are not, but the house of the righteous shall stand. Overthrown, right? We know what that means. But and are not, meaning that the wicked are not going to stand. They're not going to last. Their time is really temporary. Okay, but the house of the righteous, that is what's going to stand. Okay, the foundation that the righteous is built upon is a sure foundation. Okay, and likewise for us, our foundation is Yahushai, who is the cornerstone. So we're going to be able to stand. Ultimately, Lord willing, being of that house of David. A man shall be commended according to his wisdom, but he that is of a perverse heart shall be despised. So those that have great wisdom, like King Solomon was, he will be commended. right? Or held in high regard. Let's get a quick precept on that in 1 Kings. Salakia, chapter 4, verse 34. And there came of all people to hear the wisdom of Solomon from all kings of the earth, which had heard of his wisdom. So why did they come from different areas to come and hear his wisdom? Because it was commendable. But he that is of a perverse heart, right, a wicked and twisted and deceitful heart or deceitful mind is going to be despised. Nobody likes a little demon. For an example, look at Haman, the Agagite, and what happened to him once the truth was found was found out about him, because he was found to have a perverse heart. He was despised even of the king once the truth came out. He that is despised and hath a servant is better than he that honoreth himself and lacketh bread. And what that's saying here in the word despised here is like in a sense of being looked down upon. Okay, so in other words, what it's saying is, yeah, you may be, low, right, or you may be looked at as of little regard, but it's better to live humbly with enough to sustain yourself. Because if you have a servant, clearly that you're doing pretty well off, right? You're able to take care of yourself. You have enough to suffice, and that's better than one who's pretending to be important, but you're lacking basic necessities, right? That's what it says here, right? It's better than he that honoreth himself and lacketh bread. And you have that. You have people that, if you look at the world we live in today, people would choose their image over their actual well-being. So somebody will have the freshest, high school, right? Will have the freshest sneakers, true religion jeans, expensive ass belts and clothing, take pictures with, but they go home and they don't even have, good food to eat, right? Their hygiene is terrible. They're not in a good state because rather than take care of themselves, dress casually, you don't got to be the flyest person in the world. As long as you got something going on, and you can take care of yourself, that's much better. Verse 10, the righteous man regardeth the life of his beasts, right? That's like your animals from your ox, dog, sheep, whatever it is, right? In our case now, we mainly have pets, but a righteous man cares about the life of his beast. But the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. Meaning the wicked are so cruel that what would be considered, they're so bad that what would be considered even their mercy is cruel. Okay, because they have not that nature within them. And that's why you see like the way that they deal with these animals is perverse. Okay? They don't they outwardly it may seem like, they take good care of their animals, but no, the things that they do and subject their animals or pets to, it's cruel. Even when you look at the way that Esau, which is the wicked, when you look at how they kill animals for mass production, it's cruel, man. There was a documentary that came out that showed in some factories how they literally just like throw these animals into a meat grinder while they're still alive, and just have them just be grinded all in, hooves, everything, skulls being crushed. It's just crazy work, man. With chicks too, right? Like little baby chickens. Anyway, it says, he that tilleth his land shall be satisfied with bread, but he that followeth vain persons is void of understanding. And when you till your land, you're like a husbandman, and you're going to be satisfied with bread because you're laboring, right? You're planting, you're sowing, and then you're reaping during the harvest. So yeah, you're going to be taken care of. But he that followeth vain persons, right? Those that go after worthless low lives, and you try to, follow in their example, you're showing forth that you're void of understanding. Because what's going to come of that? Vanity, right? And eventually evil. The wicked desireth a net, Salakia, the wicked desireth the net of evil men, but the root of the righteous yieldeth fruit. It says here in the NLT, thieves are jealous of each other's loot going into the net, but the godly are well rooted and bear their own fruit. NIV, the wicked desire the stronghold of evildoers, but the root of the righteous endures. Okay, so ultimately, they desiring one. I mean, they're wicked. If they're wicked and driven by greed, it's only a matter of time before they start looking at each other with that same mind. Salakia. But the root of the righteous yieldeth fruit. Okay, so and going into that root, if you look at the righteous as like a tree, because they're planted in righteousness, they're going to be a healthy tree that's going to be able to yield forth good and proper fruit. Verse 13, the wicked is snared by the transgression of his lips, but the just shall come out of trouble, right? So they're snared, they're caught, they're entrapped by the wickedness of their words, of their lips. Eventually it's going to work against them, and they're going to get caught up in their own devices. But the just come out of trouble, right? Meaning they're delivered from it. A man shall be satisfied with good by the fruit of his mouth, and the recompense of a man's hands shall be rendered unto him. See, so a man shall be satisfied with good by the fruit of his mouth. That is, if he speaks what's right, and a recompense or payback of a man's hands, which are the actions you take, the things you do, shall be rendered unto him. So if it's good, then it's good. If it's bad, then it's bad. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise. See, a fool can be corrected. They think they're right. You know, it says the way of a fool, even though he's wrong, in his own eyes, his pride and his ego won't allow him to be corrected. So he always thinks he's right. But he that hearkeneth unto counsel, right, that can humble down and take advice, take criticism, is wise, and they will be all the more better for it. A fool's wrath is presently known; they can't hide it, right? And sometimes you have to be able to know when to bite your tongue, and you may be angry, but there's a time and place for it all. But a fool doesn't have that self-control, so immediately it's known. But a prudent man covereth shame. Okay, so because a prudent man knows how to behave himself and avoid, bringing shame upon themselves based on how they behave. Verse 17, he that speaketh truth sheweth forth righteousness, but a false witness deceit. See, so if you are given a testimony or whatever the situation is, the righteous thing to do is to speak the truth, regardless, right? Not taking a bribe, not taking a gift to pervert judgment or justice. But as it says, a false witness deceit, right? They show forth deceit. There is that speaketh like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is health. So there is, right? There is one that speaketh, their words are like the piercings of a sword. And in other words, it's saying, because those are like reckless words. Okay, and sometimes if you're not careful with what you say, those reckless words can cause deep wounds. Okay, they can wound deeply like a sword, like the piercing of a sword. Okay, but the wise words bring healing and restoration. And that's why people want to be around the wise, because they know what to say. The lip of truth shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. See, and also, because what manner of person does a lying tongue proceed from? One that is ungodly, one that is not upright. And the scriptures say that, right? That the triumphing of the wicked is but for a moment. See, but the lip of truth, which stems ultimately from a righteous or a just person, shall be established forever. Which also goes into them being established forever. That is the righteous, because the righteous speak forth truth. Okay, and what is also likened onto the lip or the words of truth, but the words that we teach. Okay, because that's truth that's been given to us from on high, and that's going to be established forever. And the reason a lying tongue is going to only be but for a moment is because eventually The truth always prevails. Verse 20, deceit is in the heart of them that imagine evil. So those that plot evil, they have some form of deceit in there, right, in order to bring that evil to pass. Because evil does not fellowship with honesty, but the counselors of peace is joy. Anybody, for the most part, that's plotting to do something wrong is going to be involved in some form of deception. It says here, but to the counselors of peace is joy. Okay. There shall no evil happen to the just, but the wicked shall be filled with mischief. So if you remain on the right path, and these are all, they're not like super deep, but they can get very deep in these sayings, that is. But these are things that, Solomon is speaking from observation, but from the wisdom the Lord has given to him as well. And you notice it's recurring. The same message is recurring. It doesn't turn out good for the wicked, but things always work out for the just, right? So there shall no evil happen to the just, but the wicked shall be filled with mischief, because they seek after mischief. So mischief that's going to be their recompense. Lying lips are abomination to the Lord, but they that deal truly are his delight. And I forgot what chapter it was in, but it mentioned that these 7 things the Lord hates, and a lying tongue was one of them. So it's an abomination to the Lord. He hates that. But as it says, they that deal truly are his delight, because that shows uprightness, that shows integrity. And that comes from wisdom, and the Lord loves those that dwell with wisdom. A prudent man concealeth knowledge. A prudent man concealeth knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaimeth foolishness. And how so, right? A prudent man conceals knowledge because they also speak at the right time, and they say what needs to be said. They don't say more than is necessary. Okay? But the fool's heart, or the fool's mind, proclaimeth foolishness. So the things that come out of their mouth is uncontrolled, is untempered, is untimely. And they do the most just to be heard. And then once you give them an audience, what they say is not even deep. It's just something that's likely, pointless even. Doesn't even add to the point that's being made. The hand of the diligent shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be under tribute. See, why would the hand of the diligent bear rule? Because they're diligently working, right, to elevate themselves, right? Somebody that's constantly working hard, eventually they're going to get into that position where they can be in authority, right? So they will bear rule, but the slothful, the lazy, is under tribute, right? They're constantly going to be under, payment, okay, or tribute, because they're slothful, they're lazy. Heaviness in the heart of man maketh it stoop, but a good word maketh it glad. So when you're stressed, or you're restless, it brings you down, right? It makes the heart to stoop. It makes you low, right? Somebody says you're down, or you have a long face. It's not always about the the actual look of your face or the anatomy of your face, but sometimes it's the look that you have on, right? It says worry weighs a person down. An encouraging word cheers a person up. See, but a good word maketh it glad. The scriptures also talk about comforting one another with these words, because the scriptures, or the correct understanding of it, is a good word. That's why it's called the gospel, the good news. The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth them. Now, when you look at this and look into some of these words here, let's start with the word excellent. It says to seek, to search out, to go about, to explore, right? To find out how to do something, to explore, to make reconnaissance. So they're more prudent, right, than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth them. Let's look at that in some of these translations here. It says here, the godly give good advice to their friends, the wicked lead them astray. Or in the NIV, the righteous choose their friends carefully, right? Remember when we went to that word excellent, it says, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. So, on one hand, yes, you do have the righteous, the way or the righteous of the righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, meaning it's right, right? It's preferable. But the way of the wicked leads them astray, right? It seduces them. It causes them to leave off of that excellent way, and to go in the way of wickedness. But also, on the other hand, a part of the excellency of the righteous is that they walk with discernment, right? And they have that stability of mind to make those proper decisions. However, if you're not careful, as it says, the way of the wicked seduceth them, and that's why, as it says, it's actually going to that word seduceth, because as the righteous are held stable, through their excellency or their righteousness and prudence, the wicked are led astray, with their own deceptive lifestyle. Let's go into that word, seduceth. To err, right? To go astray, to stagger. So both, looking at it in both sense, they're both true, right? The righteous is excellent, but if you're not careful, you can, be seduced by the wicked. But also, just as the righteous is excellent in his ways, the wicked are seduced by their wickedness. Okay, the way of the wicked seduces them. Verse 27, the slothful man roasteth not, roasteth not that which he took in hunting, but the substance of a diligent man is precious. Lazy people don't even cook the game they catch, but the diligent make use of everything they find. That's crazy work, man. They go hunting and they can't even, use it for the benefit of what you went and did the hunt. You caught the animal, and you're too lazy to come and even prepare it. Verse 28: in the way of righteousness is life, and in the pathway thereof there is no death. Because righteousness leads, the way of righteousness leads to immortality. And that's what we're seeking after. And that brings us to the end of the book of Proverbs, the 12th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rcha Kodash. Until next time.